Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, post-anniversary Anne, and our amazing Queen Quindy, along with our devoted servitors Justin and John. And hey, Lazy Dog, where are you? Where are you? Lazy Dog, it's time. You're so late. Come on, up, Kiki. Good girl. And Kiki. Yay. Oh no. Oh no. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Lazy Kiki. Okay. Before we start the noms, when we start the noms, then it's time to exile. Okay, you can go back to your door now. You can go back to your breeze. Good girl. Good girl, Kiki. Good girl. Yay. Yeah, good girl. Ah, whew, yes. Yeah, and she didn't nom me except a little bit at the end, so I think she's learning. That when she noms, she gets exiled faster. Oh, boy. Oh, no. We're having freezies? Up. Hold on. it might be on my end, guys. It might not be you. Yeah, I'm getting some drop frames on my end. Oh, no. This is so dumb. Because, yeah, it's definitely my end. At least every 2 minutes it says. Yeah, every 2 minutes is what it's saying. We had an incredible, high wind yesterday. Big time wind. I was kind of astonished that we didn't lose power. But today it's much nicer. At least now it's almost still. It's just a little tiny breeze out there. So it's kind of dumb that yesterday when it was crazy, it was fine. And now it's dropping frames. No, you cannot. We can't sacrifice you, Kerniko. We can't sacrifice you. I'm sorry. Doesn't work. Yes. Oh, I wanted to show you my yarn, but I can't. I don't want to run and get it, Kerniko. I was waiting for a time to show Kerniko my yarn. But but yes. Okay, so we've got this lady who I feel like I still want to do some tuning on her face and hair. But first, some motivation. Yes. I have a new mantra. It's an old mantra. It's actually from Seth Godin book. I was not normally a Seth Godin reader, but then my writing coach recommended the dip to me, and then I picked up the practice, and so yes, at least it didn't happen on my anniversary. That's true. Maybe the fates just kind of slid it a day, right? Yeah. So all right. So my new favorite quote of the world is by Elizabeth King, who's a sculptor, professional sculptor, and she says that process saves us from the poverty of our intentions. And this is my new favorite quote because it really resonates. Because, how many times do we intend to sit down to paint and then, oh, something happened, or oh, we're tired, or oh, the dog barfed. Well, okay, that last one will actually legit delay painting. But think about it, right? All of those good intentions, but that we don't actually plan to follow through on, it is poverty, right? We don't have anything to show for it by the end of the day. We just, in fact, if anything, we get negatives out of it, right? We feel bad for not sitting down and painting like we kind of intended to, right? Or maybe we just blow it off and say, oh, well, maybe I should just take a break from the hobby or something like that. When actually it's not really that easy, right? So essentially, the yarn will be worth the wait. Well, I tried to. I'll tell this story in a minute, Kerniko. But there's a disaster. Well, kind of a disaster story to go with this. But essentially, it's yeah. So what the point is that you should sit down and actually do it, right? Like you should say, screw it. I don't care if I'm tired tonight. I said I was going to paint, so I'm going to paint for 15 minutes, right? And you should essentially make that decision, not an intention, not intending to sit down and paint, but an actual decision that, no, I'm going to sit down and paint tonight. And if I'm tired, then I'll just do it for less time, right? So Something like that. Or maybe, oh, the kids are a real mess today. I'm still going to paint, but I'm going to wait till the kids are in bed and then I'm going to sit down and paint for 20 minutes, right? Like, so it's really important if you, especially if you really feel like you're always guilting yourself about not doing the hobby. It's really important to make that decision and commit to your hobby at least a day a week. If you've got a crazy life and you work a lot and you're always exhausted, then it's even more, I think, important to just, if you want to access your creativity, if you want your creativity to be a part of your life, to make that decision that on the day that you have the day off, even if it's only 20 minutes, you're going to sit down and enjoy your hobby. This is important. It's really, really important to prioritize your own creativity and your own enjoyment every once in a while. We all get like the talk about how we all have to be martyrs and give up our free time for other stuff. And we always have to, if we have free time, it should go to family. If we have free time, it should go to our significant other. If we have free time, we should work on improving ourselves or whatever, right? Yeah, I mean, or there is try, but it puts you in poverty, right? It puts you in creative poverty. And that just feels bad. So one day this week, people, for me, make the decision, decide that you are going to sit down, come hell or high water, even if it's only for 15 minutes, and paint on your minis, okay? This mantra has helped me a lot with my writing lately. So just saying. Yeah, exactly. You're in severe debt. But you know what? Every day you can make that decision. Like, you can't start, and he makes an excellent point in the book. He's like, the only time you have to start is now. Like you can let the moment by, but as you can't go back in time, you can't rewind it, but you can start now. You can start today. Even if today you decide that you're going to paint on Saturday morning when you typically have a little bit of time, and maybe you just sit and flop around on the internet, right? So I mean, put on your YouTube videos if you must, but sit and paint while you listen to your YouTube videos, whatever. So, oh, good, Kodiak. Very good. Very good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just decide to paint. It doesn't mean that you've got to say, I'm going to get through this whole cape or I'm going to finish this face. Don't be so specific about it when you're trying to encourage your creativity. Just do what feels fun in the moment, but do make the decision to actually sit down and do that. And if you don't get anything big accomplished, don't judge yourself. You did get something big accomplished. You made some time for your own creative practice, and that is important for your sanity. So, it's seriously. There's a reason why people always kind of like yearn toward a creative like hobby, right? It's because we all are creative on some level. And it's important for our sanity and our like stress freeness to like cultivate that, right? So decide that one day this week, decide the day, decide roughly the time, and make a backup plan. So like, I'm going to decide to paint for 15 minutes at least on Saturday morning. But if something weird comes up, my backup plan is Saturday afternoon or Saturday after the kids go to bed or whatever. Good. Yay, Quippy. Woo, you painted. Good. Woo, yay. I'm so happy. Good. Because it's important. Well, yeah, that's where it leads to. The practice and the decision leads to a practice, leads to a habit. So if you want to get in the habit, and it only needs a day a week. I mean, it's cool if you can do it more than one, but once you work it into your routine, then it becomes a habit. And then the work is done for you. Then you can do sneaky things like habit triggers. So if you decide, oh, good, Sean, awesome. Yeah. Word. Yeah. Yes. Well, there you go. Doug Cohen is a wise man. And he's been painting productively and making incredible dioramas for many, many years because he makes it a part of his life, right? He doesn't just intend to do it. He sits down and he works on it. Even if he's only working on a few grass tufts, he still does the work, right? But, I'm sorry. Yeah, everybody, no, it's on my end. It's on my end, Shadow Ravens. That's why I thought I'd give a pep talk. Because it sounds like actual painting is going to be fraught with peril. But yes, I thought I would give everybody a pep talk today. But yes, if you really want to be tricksy with your life and you really are going to follow through on your decision, do something additional. Choose a specific like thing that you used or thing that you do to set up. Like maybe you spend the first minute just setting up your painting area just so. And then you sit down and immediately start painting. or with me, I put in my headphones so that it kind of blocks the outside distractions of the world. Even if I don't play anything through them, the noise blocking is just enough to put me in my head and I can focus, or I'll turn on music, but the headphones are the thing. If you do this often enough, it will get to the point where when you put those headphones in, or after you arrange your space, you immediately feel like painting. Like it'll be magic. It'll be freaking magic. And that's a kind of sneaky thing you can do. But the first thing is just decide to paint for 20 minutes someday this week. And then if it works and you do sit down to paint, you can feel really good about yourself. And then maybe think about, oh, next time maybe I should try that habit trigger thing. And I should always do that same thing. But yeah. Oh, I ding. Yeah, we're getting some drop frames. Yeah, painting is fun. But a lot of people don't have that 2 hours, right, Sean? A lot of people I know on this stream, like, they're working an exhausting job. They're coming home. They have dogs to take care of, kids to take care of, a toddler, a house to clean, other distractions. The spouse wants to plan a trip, anything else. Stuff goes wrong. So it's great when we can sit down and have that hour or two to work. And some people have like focus-oriented brains where they get the best results if they have a big time block. But that doesn't mean that you can't feed your creativity in a small time block. Just a little stop motion, Quindy? Okay. So you're still getting sound and stuff. Paint at work. Tyler, I used to work third shift for a call center, a relay for the hearing and speech impaired, and they allowed me to paint at work because you'd get long spaces, like 20, 30 minutes between calls when it's that late at night. So I'd actually have time to paint as long as I could stay awake. But if you don't have that luxury, then what you really are talking about is paint on your lunch break. If your lunch break is 30 minutes, bring something that you can make really fast for your lunch that you can heat up or just eat like fast like a sandwich. And then just spend 15 minutes painting. Yeah, the drop drapes are not you for once, Shadow. Yeah, and a deadline is very motivating. This is true. And a deadline can be a nice motivator to do that practice, right? To do that decision. Gen Con is coming, so I'm going to decide to paint 3 days a week and on one weekend day. For at least 20 minutes. I find that you can actually get an area base coated in 20 minutes. And then the next day you can get it shaded and highlighted. And then the next day you can fine tune it, right? You will make progress in little chunks. It may not be your ideal working method if, like me, you have a focus brain that wants to do 1.5 to 2 hour time blocks, really. But it's not undoable. Yeah, that makes sense, painting tentacle. Yep. Because, who's looking at you, right? You can sit there and paint and still be paying attention. Because painting is like, it uses a different part of the brain. So. Oh, that's too bad, Pendrake. I'm sorry. That's nasty wrong. Usually I have to give up some sleep to paint. Yeah, well, and if you're only giving up 15 minutes of sleep, that's dicey, though. That's dicey, though, Sean. For me. Because I need a lot of sleep. Like, seriously need a lot of sleep these days. So that would be a hard one for me. But if it was the only time I had to work on my writing, I would probably still do it. I would try to figure out a time I could slip in a nap to make up for it. But yeah, like if it was my writing and I was like, I'd have zero time to write, I need to find time to write. And if that means sitting down at night and sacrificing a little sleep, I probably would do it for the writing. But yeah, it's everybody's individual like judgment call, right? Whether you can afford to give up on that sleep or whether you're always tired if you do, and then just listen to your gut. Hey, Roger, we're talking about motivation and my new mantra, which is essentially make the decision to paint, don't just intend to. Yeah, and with doing it with other people, like that can be a, hey, you want a Zoom chat? Like that can be just finding a friend on the Reaper. Does Reaper have a paint room, like a chat room set up on the Discord where you can just go in and paint with people? Because if not, they should. I thought they did during the online con. No, Sean, yeah. I do the same thing because I have focus brain, and you must have focus brain too. So focus brain is like a strength, right? Focus is a strength that essentially means that your brain will get in the zone, right? And just go. And that's the way that, like, when focus kicks in, your blinders go on and you just go, which is great and not great when it costs you an hour and a half of sleep, right? But I have that same brain. And what I've learned is that I have to like, it works best for me if on a given night I decide to do a particular thing and stick to it. So like I used to try to time chunk, right? It's the time chunking method. You guys have all heard about this. I'm sure it's a productivity tool where you just do like a half an hour or 45 minutes and then you take a break and then you switch to a different thing. For people with focus brains, that's not the best way to work. The best way for a focus brain to work is to say, this entire night is dedicated to my painting practice. Tomorrow's night is dedicated to whatever else I'm doing. The next night is dedicated to X. Since I switched and made each day and each night like one thing, I'm getting a lot more done and I'm doing a lot better. So sounds like we have similar brains. It's not ADHD necessarily though. It's actually a superpower. I mean, it can be ADHD, but it's not. I mean, I don't have ADHD and I have that focus, like that really strong focus capability. And it's valuable in today's world to have that, because a lot of people, the internet trains us to think more shallowly and to flit from one thing to another. If you can focus, you have a lot better chance of getting at the real gold in you, and digging it up, right? And in really, really, it's deep work is hard, and it's a real valuable thing to be able to do it. Thanks, Moon Glooms. Yep. Oh, hot mess with more than 7 people. But at least it's there. Like, so maybe Reaper just needs a couple of different rooms. Yeah, and that can be resistance, Big Chimpo. Like, that can be not necessarily a lack of focus, but when you'd rather clean the cat box than sit down to paint, that's resistance. That's your brain, like, being afraid that if you sit down and try your thing, you're not going to like the outcome, because it's risky to be creative. It's risky to, like, put your love into a thing. What if it doesn't turn out? Oh no! We are trained very much to focus on outcomes. And when we focus on a good outcome, that adds tension. And tension essentially makes resistance to us sitting down and doing the thing. Every creative I know of runs into it. And the only way to combat it that I have found is to be aware of, is to essentially have a moment, stop and be self-aware of what you're doing and say, okay, we're done with that now. Now we're going to do it. Like it's the decision to move on to the thing that's really important. Oh, hardly ever more than 2 to 3 people on. Yeah. So anyway, Kodiak, if you ever have time, you could go and check out that channel on the Reaper Discord where people can sit and just paint, and maybe that would help. In fact, if there's a person on the Discord, if there's really only 2 to 3 people in there, like most times, what you might do is, if you have like somebody on the Discord you really like hit it off with, is you should just make a paint date. Say, hey, I'll meet you on the Discord at 7:30 p.m. We can sit and paint for half an hour, you know. Because and then you always have somebody who you really like to talk to, right? Instead of just having the lottery of whoever's painting. Now, you also get the lottery of whoever's painting, but... Yeah, what I find is, like, the thing that really freed me up with my book was when I stopped caring how it did. I'm like, really, this is about me finally being published. And if it does great, I'm going to be happy. If it doesn't do great, you know what? I've got another book. And I essentially drummed that into myself until I could feel like just kind of the lightening up. Like, I finally accomplished it, and you know what? It's okay. It's great. I have not even, and this is a huge thing with authors. They get obsessive with checking their Amazon sales dashboard. I have not checked it once. I released my book, and I let it go, and I didn't check. And I'm not going to check. The actual check is going to hit my account at the end of May, and I have no idea how much money it will be. And I want to keep it that way. Every time I release a book, not going to worry. Got to stop worrying about the outcome, and then you can just enjoy it. Yeah, maybe, I mean, like I said, Kodiak, if you have somebody in the chat or in the Reaper clan that you really enjoy talking with, see if you can set up just a date. And that way it's not just you going into that channel with a couple of strangers, it's you and your friend going into the channel. And maybe your friend knows those people, right? And maybe not, but, you know, Painting Tentacle. It is called East of the Sun. Wait, I have a copy. Quindy has a link too. Here is my book. It is super spectastic. It's an actual copy, guys. This one's going to my brother because he beta read for me. So today I'm signing them, and tomorrow or later this week I have to make time to go to the post office. Yeah, and it actually has good. Now we've got 6 reviews. It's brand new. It's like been out 16 days. So yeah, so anybody who has read the book, remember, leave a review. You don't have to write anything if you don't want. My goal is to get to 10 reviews. 10 is the magic number, at which point I can actually do some advertising with email lists. They'll actually take me seriously after I've got 10 reviews. So 10 reviews, yes. Oh yeah, creative anxiety, huge. It's true. But yeah, so, and I'm working on book 2 now. And that quote, and for those who wonder, the quote that started this, the reason I want to talk about this is it's by Elizabeth King, and she's a sculptor, and she says that practice saves us from the poverty of our intentions, because we can intend to do something every day and we will have nothing. We'll have poverty, creative poverty. But if we decide to do it rather than intending, then we actually get results. We actually fulfill our creative needs a little bit better. So that is what started all this. So now I will get into painting. It's something that all of us need to do, and our society as it stands these days, because it is so outcome focused, we want the win, we want the success, we want the trophy, we want the acknowledgement, we want the success, we want the money, we want the outcome. And if we just sat down and focused instead on deciding to do the thing every day and being happy that we're actually being creative and making our thing and accomplishing our thing. The only outcome we should worry about is accomplishing our thing every day. Doing our thing, engaging our creative selves and being happy that we're actually doing it, especially for those of us who have spent so many years procrastinating, getting distracted. I spent decades getting distracted from my writing. I'd drag myself back into it for a month or 2, and then I'd fall back out for another 2 or 3 months, right? And life would intervene, and I would let it. I'm through letting life intervene. Life does have to intervene every once in a while, but for no more than a week. After the week, I kick my own butt and get back in gear. Cool. Thanks, Painting Tentacle. Awesome. Yeah. It's if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, then it's probably the easiest one is the ebook, the $4.99. I will actually stick around in May, Painting Tentacle. I've got a promotion scheduled where it's going to go down to $2.99. I think it's the 3rd through the 10th. I've got an email list promotion coming up. I'm excited. It's my first advertising. So let's get our metallics out. That's right, I was doing shading. I think I'm going to grab some, put some blue on her. I think I'm going to grab some black and brown. Maybe some brown liner. Could also do some red. Maybe I'll grab some red. Oh yeah, it's young adult fantasy. Sean, sorry, I missed it. Yeah, it's actually technically, I put 12 through 18 as the age group. The main characters are 15, 16, and 17, and it's got some violence, but I don't get graphic about it, and it's got no sex, no profanity, except that the fantasy world's profanity, which is not the same as our world, right? So I have an email list. Yes, Knights of G. If you go to A.E. Becker Writes, that is my website. So A.E. Becker being my pen name. Hold on, I'll get there. And there's a free novella. But the free novella for signing up for the email list, you should read the book first, because you'll appreciate, the novella will be cool, but it'll be so much cooler if you read the book first. Where am I? A.E. Becker. Go. Let's see here. Oh, why am I getting that? Silly thing. A.E. Becker Writes. Yeah, we're getting there. It's not wanting to focus because it's fixed. But if you get to this, that's me. That's me. So yes, and the dot and the com. Yes, sorry. The dot and the com also. But yeah, so I have a free story offer, and you get the novella. It should be working. I flipped the switch on my mailing list thing. So yeah, it's a fairly sizable novella. It's a good, I think 19,000 words. Like, I spent some time on it. I'm going to mix up some Urgathoa Red and some Black and Brown to add some warmer tones to the armor. Yes, yes. So yeah, and right now, like I said, my goal is to get reviews. I need reviews. Both on Goodreads and Amazon. So if you prefer leaving your reviews on Goodreads, I'll take them. Because when all this is just really building, what we're doing right now is we're building novel infrastructure. We are essentially making the first book like have a decent number of reviews and a decent rating, which it does right now. It's like a 4.5, I think. It's actually, thanks everybody. Thanks. If we've got those reviews and we've got those ratings and we've got them on Goodreads and on Amazon, then what happens when book 2 comes out is people see book 2, get curious, check out book 1, see it has good ratings, read the reviews, and they pick it up. And maybe they pick up both books. So yeah, guys, yeah. Yeah, and for my mailing list, I only mail you like once a month. It's very, I just want to update people. I'll share cool stuff. Like this month, I'm going to share the book that kind of inspired this whole story, which is a children's book with amazing illustrations. It's my favorite version of East of the Sun and West of the Moon. I'll share stuff like that, but I'll also share like cover art for the new book, when the new book's coming out. Maybe I'll even share sample chapters. Ooh, you guys mailing list people might get to read the first 2 or 3 chapters of West of the Moon before anybody else. So I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to actually do a drop of sealer and a drop of water with 4 drops of paint. And I may add an extra drop of water. I need to thin it a bit. Oh, super, Sean. Yeah, if you enjoy it, I would love a review. And like I said, you don't have to write anything. Just leave me a star rating. And super cool. I hope you enjoy it. If you like fairy tale adventure fantasy, it's probably up your alley. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm chugging along on my rewrite on West of the Moon right now. Yesterday was difficult. Both of these books are going to be difficult, and I'm looking forward to getting to book 3. And this is just clogged. 1 second while I unclog my sealer. There we go. Much better. I'm going to put a couple drops in. I need this to be translucent so I can like build it up on the armor. So you kind of need like a wash consistency because you do want it to pool and you want to be able to kind of stipple it and build it up. I always start bright with my metallics and then I put a lot of effort and energy into taking them down and then I bring them back up. And that just gives me a very complex effect for my colors on metallics. You were so speedy. So I talked to Ron this morning. Reaper Ron called me with a paint department question. Just a long time since that's happened. But I needed it. Apparently, I needed to make sure that gray liner that you guys got your gray liner. So. All right, so that's okay. Let's put this in here. And that's too dark. So essentially when you're trying to layer on shadows of your metallics, this is very good coverage. That's too much. This is almost a little too light. So what I'm going to do is add 1 more drop of Urgathoa in here. And just in case you're wondering, the red isn't really going to show up very much. It's just going to add some complexity. It may, if the subconscious mind registers it may register it as bloodstains or stuff like that. So it's kind of cool that way. I'm adding 1 more brush full of water to this. The black and brown just has really good coverage, and so I need to thin it until it's a little bit more transparent. So we might try that. But yes, they apparently there was no notes on a particular base that they needed, and I needed to clarify. All right, and I can mix this one back up and get a little more red there. Now I don't want the other thing to remember is if you don't want a real strong color, like I did kind of a glaze of blue over the top of some of this. You can see it right there, that blue color. So if you don't want it real strong, then keep the color definitely more thinned if you want a little bit strong. Hey, Miss Sarah, woo, 38 months, nice. Also, grats on winning the $100 gift card, one of the $100 gift cards yesterday. Gray liner, I use it really selectively, and I use it on NMM, Age of Marvel. So if you're going to do steel or silver NMM, then you should, I think it makes it easier to do the black shadows, the really dark shadows on silver and steel NMM, because it thins a lot better than our pure black, because the pure black is really built for coverage, but the gray liner is translucent. So gray liner lets you get those darker shadows in on your steel or silver NMM without being a real beast to thin down. That's what I think gray liner's strength is. It's what I use it for. All right, I'm going to just pop some red in and see. So that's actually pretty strong. Maybe I need to thin that a little bit more. Maybe I was wrong about how strong I needed it. All right. Well, that means I definitely need to thin that other color more. Oof. Hey, I see a Beguiler Subiversary. Happy Subiversary, happy Subiversary, happy Subiversary, happy Subiversary. All right. Yay, Beguiler, round of applause, round of applause. 12 months, thank you. Yeah, I need to thin that brown a lot more. Also, I think I might need it. If I leave it this color, it's going to get, this is going to mix and this is going to mix, and we're going to feel like we have some rust. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, depends on what you want. Oh, that's okay. That's cool. Yeah, super clap. Super clap. I'm going to actually add one dot of brown liner just to take this down a little bit. But yes, thank you for your Subiversary. And now I'm going to plop a whole bunch more water in this. And I may have to swap it over into another well. And thin it there. So yeah, the thicker you leave this, the more texture is going to show up with your brush strokes. So like if you're doing this sort of thing on a giant dress plate, then you want some of those blotches and stuff to still show up. And then you want this to be darker, right? So if you keep it a little thicker, you'll get darker faster, but you may not get like as much complexity or subtlety, depending on what you're trying to do. So let's get close. Yeah, Small Scottish Cat hasn't gotten a song for a while. Yeah, I'm chasing Derek Schubert. He's our sculptor, painter, singer, actor, quadruple threat, you know. So Got to show that Schubert guy. He's not the only one who can be a multi-talented, amazing person, right? Though he is pretty amazing. So, all right, let's see here. So I want to make more shadows on the inside. I talked about this a bit the other day, but when you've got these knee pads that are kind of like have a bend down the middle, you know, that peak, choose one side of the kneecap to be in light and one side not to be. And paint it that way. And in this case, since the legs are spread out in a V, it's the outside that's going to get the light. And you can see the blue there. I put the blue there on purpose because I want that to pick up the sky reflection. So that means all my dark stuff should be on the interior. And since we're doing 28mm, we don't have a lot of room for like reflected light here. But I could probably sneak some in. This lower part will probably be where we sneak it in. We also want to break up that lower edge, this little rim. So I'm going to put layer a shadow in. And I'm going to put a little bit of red around there, but not a lot of red. Really putting different colors into your metallics doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see all those colors. What it does is just gives you a much more interesting and complicated shadow color. Up, ping. Of course I was singing and clapping for him. Small Scottish Cat is my favorite fan. Anybody who sulks when they don't get to watch my stream, like, yeah, you're my smallest but cutest fan. It's pretty much is Small Scottish Cat. So bringing in that shadow on the other side. Again, we're keeping this a little bit lighter. Now I still do need to build up a bit of shadow over here to bring out this shape. So maybe I grab a slightly different color for that. Since I'm focusing on my warmer colors for my shadows, I want to, for the parts that are in the light, I still want to be able to do some shading, but I'm going to grab brown liner so that I can go very grayed out with it. Apparently Kiki encountered a possum today. David had pictures. The possum was very sad. It was trapped between two fences in the schoolyard. So David called animal control when he came home just to alert them that they might need to rescue a possum. But the possum was not thrilled with... Apparently Kiki did not like lunge at it. She actually just kind of like looked at it. And it bared its teeth at her, and she did not attempt to approach it. Ego monster, yes. But yeah, so we did see a possum today. You know it's not good. You know the poor thing was trapped in there because it's still out when it's daytime. Yeah, poor possum. David did go by on his way when he finally went to work to check on it, and he didn't see it. So maybe it got out, or maybe animal control got there. But yeah, possums are nice. They're nice folks. So I encouraged him to call animal control about it, just to make sure it could get rescued. We have lots of possums here because we have lots of grubs, all the mulch. All right, so I'm going to get that brown liner. It's very, very more blackish, you can see. I'm going to pop a little bit more sealer into it. Don't have to thin this nearly as much to get to the right consistency. There we go. All right, so now I've got a bunch of different colors that I can play with. And if I need to bring my blue back in, I can, but I try to keep the blue understated. So I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow around here, just so we have that bright spot at the top. But then we have a bit of a shadow, and that's where we can get our reflected light going on. I'm just stippling a bit. On a small surface like this, chances are you're not going to really see that texture. But there, so now we can do a highlight and under reflection when we get to that point. Yes, I'm glad I don't need any ticks like hitting me or the Kiki, so possums are awesome. So that's why I wanted David to save this one if he could. Because possums. I see them regularly in the neighborhood. I see skunks regularly. And very rarely, only during really, really rainy times do I see the raccoons because they live in the storm drains. So here we got a little bit too dark probably, although there is a cloak here. I didn't erase all my blue, but I probably could use a little more of it, but we'll see, we'll see. I'm going to try to pop a little bit more highlight here, or shadow here rather. So yeah, what we can do here is once we decide on a cloak color, I can take this shadow and I can lighten it up and have it reflect that cloak color. So you can do that sort of thing with metallics. It's just a little bit harder, but notice how dark now we're getting with the metal. And doing that means that our highlights show up a lot better. So we have a lot more control at that point over how our highlights and shadows look and their positioning. And that's what makes for a very crisp metallic effect. You still can't control everything, but you can mostly control. Like you still see the highlights move, but for the most part the highlights are staying where they need to be, right? Death Knight Black is essentially an indigo liner. All right, so now we're going to pay a little bit more attention to where our highlights and shadows are right here. So yeah, if you, Death Knight Black is kind of like Black Indigo in liner form, but it's very translucent. Oh, a little bit globby there. Feel like that brown. And this is just an idea. Like when you've got a color, I always talk about how colors are, and I talked about this yesterday, how higher coverage colors are very hard to make go translucent, right? So you have to fight them. You can see that with the way this is drying versus this. This is a liner. Look at how nice and transparent it's drying. Look at this one. It's got as much or more water and sealer in it, but it's still fighting me because this one, Black and Brown, has a very high coverage. And Urgathoa is a little more transparent because it's red, so reds just generally don't have as many coverage, even high density reds like this one is built. So this is kind of an example of when you're trying to get your paint to go to translucent levels and then it's fighting you. That's usually because your paint is just a very high coverage paint and it's just hard. Yeah, it's like an indigo liner. It's blue and purple and black. Cool. All right, so let's get this red in here. So I'm putting a shadow here because the light's going to come down on the hip here, you can see. So I want a little bit of a band of shadow, like right here. And I will bring up the edge, but bringing the edge down first will make it pop more when I get around to bringing that edge up. So that's why we bring in these darker bands of shadow. And I'm going to move this again and try to thin it again to see if my black and brown is going to ever play nice. If not, I'm going to brown liner. I assume the raptors are velociraptors or bigger vigorociraptors, since velociraptors were supposedly tiny. So we want these bands of light and shadow. I want a band of shadow underneath this upper part here. I'm probably going to throw some shadows into here underneath the belt. So I'm just either painting them in or I'm stippling them in just to bring more. Yeah, I was picturing dinosaurs too. It's funny these days when that word means dinosaur more than it means bird because of Jurassic Park. So, and I want to bring in, again, we've got a point here where it's diamond shaped, right? It comes up and then cuts down. So we have to decide which side is going to be the brighter side. And since the light is mostly falling on her face here, I decided that this side is the darker side. So I'm going to bring in more of that brown. No, this is TMM, Twisted Oma. You're just, I'm just painting it as, shading it as if it's NMM. And I've done a couple of washes on it. But you can see the shine, see? So you can see that it's TMM. But the way to make TMM look good is to paint it like NMM. As much as you can. It's essentially to use paint to push your shadows. So I don't mind if I'm bringing this way down because I am going to bring it up with more highlights as well. But yeah, we started with I did a gray underpaint and then I did a layer of bright silver steel metallic and then I am taking the shadows and knocking that down. And this is how I do my true metallics. So I'm bringing in some red there on the helmet and then I'll bring in more brown. And here I'm trying to make a round, a kind of a crescent-shaped shadow around the roundness of this highlight. But yeah, this is metallics, because we don't often do metallics, so I thought her armor was chunky enough that I thought it would look good with metallics. And we've got two different shadow opportunities here. One, this upper rim is going to catch the light, so I can put a shadow right below that. But two, we probably want to do a couple of vertical shadows as well. So I'm going to leave this part bright and shade around both edges. That's going to bring out that. See how I'm bringing out the shapes here? Oh boy, I'm trying to think about when I did a shade metallic spin. If it's very old, I probably need to do a new one. But yeah, it should be similar. Like, it's been years since some of that content. I was just thinking the other day, I really need to go back and redo. Because the thing is, as a painter, you're always progressing and you get, like, kind of new insights on how to describe stuff, especially because I'm always describing stuff to you guys on stream. But I change the way I do things just a little bit. And having an example that is a couple of different model examples, right, for every technique would actually be kind of good, I think. So I probably need to do it. I don't remember when I did the last Shade of Metallics one, but I do need to do another one probably. Because that one probably has the Curl technique, which is what I used on my bigger stuff. But this one I'm not using the gloss sealer. And the reason I'm not using the gloss sealer, which is what I did on Mr. Grumpy here and what I did on my Grandmaster winner from last year, Adepticon. The reason I'm not mixing in the gloss sealer and metallic is because this is a 28. Because it's a 28, we need to control our highlights and shadows a bit more. We don't have a whole lot of room to do textures. We don't have a lot of room to do, you know, like subtle shifts and little stippling patterns and all of that. Instead, what's important is that we can still see all of the details. And so I don't want to use a gloss sealer to thin this. I'm just using regular brush-on sealer because I don't want the shadows to be shiny. I want the shadows to be matte because that's how I'm going to see all of this, how all these plates are going to come out at the end. But yeah, Twisted Oma for sure. I mean, I very much believe in doing my true metal a lot like NMM. The difference, the exception would be doing big stuff like this big bust. Then I don't do it like NMM anymore. Now I paint it realist. I go for realism. But on 28s, I'm gonna go NMM and probably even on 75s. So only when I've got that big rounded breastplate am I going to actually go full bore for realism because that's large enough that I can. Same with Borka, my Grandmaster winner from last year. It was a big enough shoulder pad, just a monstrous big metallic shoulder pad. And so it was definitely, so a little bit of stippling here. Want to bring my highlight back a little. One reason I'm not a fan of I don't often use sealers or mediums in my paint when I'm doing thin stuff like this, by the way, is that it tends to set up a little faster on the surface. So when I'm painting normally, I can paint something, and if I make a blur, if I can grab my brush, rinse it out, and bring back the damp brush and scrub it off. But when you're adding in sealer or medium, they're pretty much the same thing chemically. When you're adding in sealer or medium, then you're going to find that edge dries a lot faster. So you won't be able to just take it off with a damp brush anymore. And I think that's why I tend to gravitate away from using mediums in my glazing. For example, some people really like to use mediums in glazes. But if I need to accidentally fix a blurf, that's going to set up, and then I'm going to have to repaint that area if I make a mistake. So I tend to go for just the water thinning on my glazes for that reason. I like the feel of it better, and I can correct it but easier. Yeah, I may have done Husky Paladin like this, actually. It's hard to do, it's hard to do some of this with, because you can see how long it's taking me, right? It's taking several streams to set this up. And on a video for my Patreon, I typically only have like 25 minutes. I try not to go any longer than 30 ever. So that can be difficult. I almost need to start doing series where I do several steps from video to video. Although that's kind of like, I guess it's more intensive than some people might want. But yeah, Patreon is like you have so little time to set this stuff up. You have to go very, very quick. But yeah, Husky Paladin, I think I did do like this. So then, yeah, this would be very similar. So again, adding in a shadow there under the breastplate. You can see the shiny. Turgeon, what happens with chat and you guys is that your questions will help me to think about something in a different way. And then I will, like, that'll give me a little bit of an epiphany. And this is why we always say, why you've got that old saw out there about learning from your students. So it's mostly because, like you say, you know, you ask a question, I have to explain it. Maybe I have to explain the topic in a slightly different way. That helps me to think about it in a different way. And then that just integrates. And it's not an intentional thing. I should say, it's like often it just is something you do. Like the questions just organically shift your mindset. And the next time you describe the thing, you describe the thing a little bit different. Because your brain remembers, oh, but there's that special case. Or, oh, but, you know, like there's this. So in that way, I think that that's how, for me, that's how it works, is that some part of my brain catches on, I explained this different last time and it feels like more true to me, or, oh, I've got to remember this thing that I thought of last time. And I probably am not ever going to remember exactly who asked the question or what exactly, you know, the model was, but I'll remember, oh yeah, there's this thing and I need to talk about it. So we've got the shoulder pad here is just all covered in the hair. So I'm just going to do a little shadow around the rivet there. But yeah, it's more that when I teach topics over and over again on this stream, because we do, right? We go over and over again, the same sorts of things, just with different colors and different models. And it might also be triggered by a particular model. Maybe a particular model challenges me to execute in a different way. So I come away from the process with a new idea about how to execute on it. So shadow, bringing up the shadow around the rounded part of the breastplate. There's a flat part of the breastplate under there. We're doing that. I start medium dark, gel tip. Hi. I start with a medium dark color. These days, if I want it to be a brighter gold, I'm going to start with rich leather. If I want more of a bronze or a darker, more muted gold, greener gold, I'm going to start with NMM Gold Shadow. As you can see, neither of them is super dark, but they are like what I'd call a medium dark. So on the color wheel grayscale, I think they're going to be about a 5. Maybe 5 or a 4. Yeah, this one's a 4. That one's more of a 5, I think. It's a 4 to 5, more toward the 4. So on the value scale, there you go. So I'm not starting super dark. I'm starting somewhere in this area. And what that does is it allows me to bring in my shadows and really see it. To control the placement of the shadows. It saves me a little bit of work because I don't have to bring everything up from black, which is, I used to start dark and work light, and I just found that it wasted a lot of time for me, gel tip. Because it took so long to layer up, and you're going over so much of the same area with every layer. So like I found it was a real time waster to paint dark to light. Once I got my my layering down and my idea of lighting and all that, I switched away from that to where I start with a base and go down then up. The exception is really light colors. So if I'm doing a skin tones, I may start much darker. I may start with a shadow and go up if it's a fairer skin tone. If it's a white or an off-white effect, I'm going to start with my shadow and go up from there, usually. So yeah. And it does depend, like on Anubis, with his bones, I started kind of mid-dark, but I did go and bring in darker shadows. So like, I started around this color, but I did bring in that color, right? I did bring in a much darker shadow as well, and then I brought it up. So it does depend these days on where we are, but like on his skin, I started dark, worked light. And we still need another layer of highlighting. We worked on his skin this past weekend, this Saturday. So it will depend. And then if I'm working on a light source, I almost always start white and then I work darker and darker depending on what the light source is. But yeah, I find it's more efficient to start somewhere in the middle and then go down, go up. And it helps me to control more what I want. If I start black everywhere, then everything has to be hauled up by its bootstraps. It's like I have to haul it all out of the abyss of that black starting or dark starting color. And so for me, it makes more sense to control light and shadow and light and dark on the model with my base coat choice. Alrighty, let's bring up on this sword here, grab some red. Ooh, that's a very strong red. At this point, it started to evaporate a little. Gonna bring in a little bit of the dark. And if you do find, if you use a color like a red and it gets a little strong, you can always kind of put a different color over the top, either the dark color like I'm doing here, or you could do the complement. You could take some green, mute it out. Yep. Yeah, I guess we haven't done a lot of animat. Well, okay. Hey, wait. I have an example, gel tip. The gold on this guy, you can see the base color right here. And then on the sides of these little trim pieces, I've already brought it up here. So I've essentially done more shading with a darker brown in here, and then I brought it up. But that's that rich leather, that starting color. Kiki's being a silly girl, playing with her bones, I think. These days I give her a bully stick and she has it gone before the stream even starts. But she gets her morning bully stick every day. Oh, still dinging, still having some frames dropped. But hopefully it's not too annoying. Let me go and get that message off my screen. Woof. Yeah, it seems like every 2 minutes, according to, and it's 36% of frames. It's really consistent. And it's every 2 minutes. Whatever the heck that is. Yep, that's I think the best way to do it, gel tip. It's best if they can tell you why they do it too. For me, it definitely was that I felt, because I was starting with the dark and then I was going over almost entirely the area with the next lighter color, and then almost entirely the same area with the next lighter color, and then, maybe 2/3 of the area with the next light and half the area with the next one. And I kept having to go over the same area again and again. And so I compared that to when I just did kind of a mid base and then put the shadow in and then put the highlight on, and I wasn't having to go over the same area again and again as much. So it saved me time. That's good, as long as people can hear me. Brush camera. Oh man, I don't know, Mac Attack. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. I had not heard that there was such a thing. I'm a little dubious. My thing, if it's a camera that attaches to your brush, my worry would be motion sickness results on people watching it. I'm not joking. Yeah, exactly. It just takes a lot of work. You can get there using that method, and I painted some good models using that method, but it takes a lot more. You feel like you're just going over and over the same areas. Yeah. So, well, good luck then. Good luck then, gel tip. Hopefully you'll get a little better results trying something different. All right, so I'm going to put some shadows also into here, because remember, the upper part of the blade still needs shadows, just not as dark. You can make them a little narrower too. I'm using my brown liner right now. And I tend to make them kind of hourglass shaped. So a narrow at the waist and wider at the top and bottom. Can also kind of make them trapezoidal. So you've got some shadows there. And you do want to make them a little bit different size. So I'm going to widen this one so that it's bigger. noticeably bigger compared to that one. So it'll make it a little less regular. Interesting. Oh, the camera's above. The camera is right up. I'm lifting the mini up. Here's the camera. Boop. I love this camera. Yeah, live streaming it, I just feel like, yeah, maybe it'd let you get some interesting shots for video. You're right, Mac Attack. You'll have to tell me how that works out. We'll go back and add those shadows in over here. And I'm going to shade this elbow. Block in more color. I'm going to get a big wide block here. And a little tiny block up here. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would be worried about motion sickness. Not even with like dry brushing, but just in general, because the brush there's all these little jiggly movements, right? Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. If you slow it down, it might be okay. Yeah, or maybe I'm overthinking it. It's not really going to be that much motion. I don't know. I'm really curious now, Mac. You have to report back. Yeah, liners are a lot easier to do this sort of thing with because they naturally, they're much more amenable to going translucent and transparent. And it lets you, if you build it up, then you can get a nice dark shadow. And if you leave it real thin, then you can get lighter shadows. And we will, of course, be coming back in with our highlighting to bring this up a little bit more. And we've got that nice shiny elbow. Yeah, like Insta Reels, it might be cool, right? Yeah, or TikTok. But we'll see. We'll see. It might surprise us. Like sometimes things look much different than you think they will with new tech, so it will be interesting. Yeah, see, and at that point, I mean, if I hold it in my other hand, then I'd much rather just have this. Like, because my other hand is busy keeping the miniature stable. For my process, right? Purely my own process. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely let us know, Mac. Definitely let us know. Oh, nice. Sweet. Thanks for buying the book. Awesome, Mac. Thank you. Yes, we were just talking earlier about how I'm excited because I have 6 reviews now. I'm more than halfway to the 10 that I'm looking for. The 10 goal. The magical 10 number. And anything after 10 is like gravy. Anything after 10 makes it just gives us more punch. More verisimilitude, more hey, this is a real book and people like it. But yeah, I'm very excited about getting book 2 out. Because then I get started on book 3. And book 3, it's on. Book 3, it's on, guys. For those who have read the book. There are so many things in book 3 that I introduced the seed for in book 1 and 2. So. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If it could do stills really close and it's got good resolution, that might be really cool. Or even just like to put it on just to show a brush stroke, just to do like a layering brush stroke really, really slowly. Because that's, a lot of people like that would be valuable information, right? It's hard to get close enough sometimes. But yeah, definitely experiment. Let us know, Mac. That sounds very interesting. Alrighty. So that's look at how nice, and look how much contrast we're getting on this now. This is cool. All right, so I'm going to grab a little bit more of my brown and pop it in here. And remember also when you're doing this sort of thing, brown and blue are complements, right? Because brown is a muted orange and blue is blue. So if you notice that you've gone too muddy, like if you're reading less like a warm black and more like a kind of a rusted brown, or a mucky brown, like a dirty brown, you can always bring a blue glaze in to correct, to essentially shift the brown in a different direction. You see how dark the armor is getting now, but how dramatic it is too, right? No, we haven't discussed it yet because I haven't seen it yet either. I did tell David I wanted to go see it. So, and I don't go see movies, so this is quite the concession on my part. So I will go and I will see. Yeah, no spoilers. Yeah, that you are permitted to say that you really liked it, or you are permitted to say that, like, I have also heard such that D&D players will really love it, but that regular moviegoers might not get all the stuff, you know, and might not like it as much because it may seem less fun to them because they don't get the in-jokes, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, you're going this afternoon. Well, I hope you enjoy it, Game Master's Fault. But, all right, I want a little bit more dark shadow down here. But if you can see, you can kind of see, I hope, how putting all this shading in has given us a really dramatic effect, much different from just throwing a wash over the surface. Did it take more time? Yeah, it did. But it definitely has given us a lot more of an interesting metallic than we might have had otherwise. So I'm going to shade down dark over here. Really dark with my brown liner. And the darker you go, remember, you can always highlight it with metallics. So that's funny, Joe. Good, Macintac, good. All right, good. Sounds like a lot of you guys like it, yeah. David and I are nerds, so I'm sure we'll like it as well. But yeah, it has to. It's a rare movie these days that makes me sacrifice the hour and a half, 2 hours of my life to go watch it. So. Because I've been disappointed so often in the past by Hollywood that I'm very persnickety. I always read reviews and I always ask my friends. And if it doesn't sound super fun, or it isn't a movie I've been waiting for forever, then I just wait till it comes out on Netflix or video or whatever. Stream, when it comes out on stream. All right. So we've got that all set. All right. Let's see, what do we got? We're at, okay, we have some time. Do I want to go even darker? Okay, so here I want to say something. If you want to do an effect like this on Mr. Grumpy, you can see where I've brought in the lighter scrapes and scratches and stuff like this. Now, this won't work on 28, or it will with very limited effects. The only places you can really do it on a 28 are on big, like if she had a big, broad breastplate, you could maybe get away with a little bit of it on the helmet here. You could do a ding on the sword like we did on Noli. Noli's got one. Where is he? So we did this on Noli. We showed you how much texture you could really do on a 28, and he does have one of those little slices, dents in his sword, and he's got a lot of stippling and other like kind of artifact stuff. So, but you have to really dirty it down to do that. And so with her, she's a cleaner model. I'm not going to go there. But probably the only places here that it would be wise to do that would be like here on the sword blade or here on the helmet. And that said, if you're not doing that effect, then you don't need to take the metal down a ton. You can keep the metal fairly bright, like we've got it here, and then start highlighting off the top of that. if you're gonna do that micro abrasion kind of highlighting though, like all the armor is very dirty and dingy with just like the worn off spots like Mr. Grumpy has, then I would actually do maybe even a couple more washes of darker color over the top of this to really bring it down, because that's what lets you do that stippling and those little cuts and slashes and have them show up. You need to have that darker base to work from on those. Oh, going to see D&D tonight. Good, Dogfather. Oh, is the sound going? Oh, you muted it. Hey, Zachariah, thank you for the resub. 8 months. That's okay. Yeah, we're having kind of a dingy day where my internet is jogging every 2 minutes. But everybody's been able to hear sound. Although if you want my inspirational pep talk speech, then you need to go back and watch the VOD after this is gone, guys. After we end today. Just talking about my latest mantra and making intentions into decisions. It's very important. You should go and watch it. If you like my pep talks, if you like my you should be painting, really you should. And here is how you can find some time to do it. Or find some oomph to do it sometimes. But yes. Yes, I challenged every one of you, everybody on this stream, I challenge you to find 15 to 20 minutes of time this week, not to intend to paint, but to make the decision that you are going to paint. Like, decide. Don't just intend. Decide. Decide for good. And make a backup plan. So, like, if you decide you are going to paint on Saturday morning, because that's usually a pretty free time for you, and you just normally flop around on the internet, like, then great, but have a backup plan that if something weird comes up, like you have to rush your dog to the vet, you will decide instead to paint that afternoon or that evening. So make a concrete decision, not just an intention. It's very easy to just throw off intentions. Yes, I use metallics to highlight. Absolutely, Babatuk. Yep. Alrighty, and to do that, let's grab some Shining Mithril. I think I'm just going to use the Shining Mithril. I think I've got some Pearl as well for the super high spots. I'm probably going to use the Iridescent Pearl from Golden. It's a really, really high shine. It doesn't have coverage necessarily, as you can see. It's very, like when they scrape it thin over this, but look at the shine. It picks up a lot of light because it's pretty much a metal medium. Doesn't have any pigment in it. It's just the flake. So for your very, very hot spots, think about using something like that. You can also do the Reaper Pearl. The Reaper Pearl, though, has more pigment in it. With Reaper, a lot of times I had to go for a little bit higher coverage. That's nice thermal. That's great. I mean, I know a lot of people do not have... A lot of people don't have the time to spend that much time. So that's why I'm saying 15, 20 minutes, make the decision to do it. Because it's for your creative health. Yes, your brain loves to be creative, and too often we let our creativity get shunted off in favor of something else that we believe is more important. So do this for yourself. Decide that you are going to spend that 15 minutes. Explain to your loved ones that this is important to you and you'd really like to do it. If they're the type of loved ones who are going to guilt you about it, then just kind of, decide I'm going to do it anyway. Probably your loved one who's guilting you also does things for themselves. So, they shouldn't be guilting you. But there's little you can do if a loved one is going to guilt you. More often, though, we guilt ourselves. We guilt ourselves because we're like, well, I should be spending time with my loved one. Or I should be taking the dog for a walk. Or I should be doing this. Or I should be cleaning the house. I should be reorganizing the garage. I should be doing all these things that don't involve actually just having fun with myself being creative. But sometimes you just have to, tell those voices to bugger off. Because it's for your creative sanity. Okay. So, okay, here we go. Not correct, or correct and not correct, Big Chimpo. White pigment is not ground coarse. White pigment is still ground to below the level of 1 micron. You will never see it. Not unless you're dealing with old school white pigments that are ground, for students to try to make their own paints with. Those sometimes you can still find in powder form, and they're not ground to less than a micron. That would be highly hazardous. But I don't know that they even do that kind of thing anymore. Like they did when I was in college, but that was a long time ago. So nowadays, if you are dealing with a liquid pigment in a paint, it is going to be lower than 1 micron. Is white more of a larger particle than other pigments? Yes. Titanium white is ground to a 0.9 micron typically. At least that's the range you usually see it in paint. So that's around its particle size. Whereas something like a Hansa yellow might be only a 0.2 micron. So there is a large difference, but I would not call it coarse. And there isn't very much. It has a larger particle size is the correct way to put it. Or pigment grind if you know it. But these days, pigment grind can be a loaded term in the industry. A lot of people think they know what it means, and they might not. Or they might think they know what it means and they don't realize that even though some pigments are larger particle size than others, it's all still invisible to your eyeball. But yes, the reason that white has some coverage to it is that it has that large particle size. Whereas that yellow that I mentioned doesn't cover very well at all. Has very transparent. Magenta is another one that's usually 0.2 or 0.3, I think. So everything on the lower side of the micron is very translucent, and then like reds tend to be 0.4, 0.5. Oxides tend to be 0.7, 0.8. So like brown oxide, usually pretty good coverage, usually 0.7, 0.8. No. Not at all. Okay, Big Chimpo. Here's the dealio with grinds and pigments. Let me put a drop of stuff in this first. I'm going to thin this metallic a bit. So here's the deal. As a paint company, even Reaper that makes its own paint, you never deal directly with the pigments. You need a very high-end set of grinding plates to grind your own pigments. It's done by chemists, not by Reapers. So surface chemistry, the people who are creating surfaces to stick to things, right? So those chemists and organic chemists usually are working with great big grinding plates, and they'll do it. The grinding plates will alter whether it's a coarse or a fine. They'll alter the amount of pressure. They'll alter the amount of time, and every pigment needs a specific type and length of grinding to reach its best color. So the color of the pigment isn't just a choice. It's not like we're choosing to only grind our white for 4 hours or choosing to grind it for 6 or 8 or 24. It's to get the best red out of this particular compound, I need to grind it on coarse for 3 hours, and I need to grind it on fine for 8 hours. And then I will get the best color out of that compound. So it's not this should tell you that this is done by huge industrial machines and chemists and engineers, not Reaper. And then those companies who are creating the surface compound stuff put those pigments into a base and with compounds to hold it in solution, surfactants. And they mix it at extremely high velocity in an industrial strength mixer, which is essentially a paint mixer on super steroids. But it's super steroids, like super steroids. It's like, it's because it has to emulsify. They have to make it into emulsification. So to do that with pigment particles and water and surfactants takes a very, very high strength, high velocity mixer. This is why when your paint falls out of solution, when it gets frozen, your shaking will not put it back in solution. If you could somehow put it into a normal paint shaker, that would not put it back into solution. You would have to somehow find a way to put it back into the industrial grade, like super high velocity one. And even then it might not. I don't know I think that would probably fix it, but yes, Correct. It is definitely different companies, although they steal from each other regularly. Like the artist pigment world totally stole high density pigments from the industrial pigment world, and the artist world also recently stole acrylic inks from which is essentially just the new generation of acrylic dyes that aren't really dyes from the industrial world. So they have borrowed back and forth over the ages. But yeah, so pigment companies produce the colorant. They call it colorants. They don't call it pigments. Industrial colorant company, and then they will sell that product to paint stores, to us, etc. And then what Reaper does is we research the base to put it in, and we add the pigment to the base along with yet more additives to get the correct finish and viscosity, and to hold it all in solution nicely. That makes sense? Yes, and artist pigments are, although they're all getting very much closer now. So I don't know how much longer you're going to see. Like you'll still see artist pigment companies like putting out like the rose madder and everything, but I think they're getting closer and closer to using the same pigments, because the problem is that as industrial pigment creation has become more and more standardized, and there's more and more like, oh, this is the new light fast magenta, right? It's much more light fast. This is the higher coverage red, right? So now you can actually make a cadmium red without cadmium. So all those pigments are just going to kind of, I think, cross the pond to the other side of the equation. And you already have burnt umber being just brown oxide. It's just a different evolution of that of brown oxide. It's treated differently, it's developed differently, it's ground differently, so it gives you that different color. There's so many different brown oxides out there. Tons of different brown oxides. They're all different colors and all different transparencies. Hey, Mega Paints, thank you for the raid. We're talking about paint chemistry today, because if you didn't know, hi, I'm Anne. I created the paint line for Reaper Miniatures, so Reaper Master Series paint. I created it. I spent 17 years. I spent 15 years mixing every batch and 17 years like developing and mixing every batch. So we talk about paint chemistry sometimes, and I got a question about different pigments and stuff. So yeah, I'm probably the one painter on the web that actually was a paint line designer and learned paint chemistry in self-defense. So yeah, I'm the one to ask about why does my paint do this. But yeah, thanks for the raid. I'm on every weekday morning, sorry. But we also paint. We're working on some shaded metallics today, so I was just putting in a lot of shadows so that I could come back in and pop the highlights on this lady. But we started out with just the brightest silver I could manage, and then we've been bringing it down with a bunch of colors, so that now I can bring it back up, but still have really cool shadows on it. Oh, Val. It's actually not umber at all. Umber is its own thing. Umber is dirt. But yeah, so I'm going to pop a highlight here. So I thinned this paint down a lot. You can see the highlights that I put in there. There's a highlight there and there's a highlight there. So I'm essentially bringing in my metallic again to bring up that brightness. I'm just using a little bit. I've thinned this metallic and it's pretty milky. So it's not going to give me coverage, but the nice thing about the Bones metallics, which are silica based, is that you can layer with them. So you can get a somewhat blended effect if you thin them enough. But I'm keeping it a little stronger. You can see that stronger line I just stippled down the crest of the helmet. Yeah, raw meant that it wasn't heated. Yeah, it's heated or heated. And they called it burnt umber because when you did it right, you got a color that really... Oh, I'm going to have to go fetch my cap. But you got it. This is burnt umber. Or it's today's burnt umber. But it matches the actual color better than anything else I've found. So you got this really, like, looks like char, right? Like, looks like the pieces of burned stuff that you get off your grill. And I dropped my cap, so I'm going to fetch it. But, so it was a descriptor. And the raw umber actually does look really like raw. It's like greenish, yellowish, orangish. I don't think I've got a raw umber. But it's a greenish, lightish brown. that interestingly goes gray, more gray than anything when you add white to it. Yeah, raw just meant raw. It meant unheated. So it's okay, Val. Oh, you found it, Tyler. You found it. Yeah, Anushka, you did find it. That's the one. Yep, that's the one that Jennifer sculpted for me, based roughly on me. I'm going to do a little bit of a hot highlight in the middle of this rounded surface here. Just kind of stippling it up a little. You can kind of see it there. That rounded part. I'm going to bring in a little bit more, I think. So I'm just using little touches of this brighter metallic to bring my shine back in. You can see it there when I turned away from the camera. So even though you still see the metallic through, but it gives you a consistent highlight. It's about as much as you can control a highlight on shaded metallics. But yeah, nowadays I just kind of wonder if everything's going to standardize because, you know, so many paint companies, you'll notice because if you go into an art store, you'll see it's cadmium red hue, cobalt blue hue. When they put that hue on there, it means this is not actually cobalt blue, but it is a color that we have mixed with other pigments that is more or less identical or very close to the same color and consistency and coverage as cobalt blue. So things like that. You're going to see a lot more of that and a lot less of the actual pigments, unless that pigment is already really inexpensive and has a good industrial equivalent, or was always like that particular mineral, like quinacridone magenta. Quinacridone is a chemical, a substance that is really inexpensive, relatively speaking, and it gives that great magenta, and they've learned how to treat it to increase its light fastness, which was always its weakness, is that UV light would fade it out super fast. But now they've done better with it, so you're not going to see a replacement for that. But for the traditional pigments that have gotten more and more, like nobody's using actual ultramarine blue anymore. Nobody is grinding up, lapis lazuli gemstones to give you your ultramarine blue. Sorry, folks. So ultramarine blue has now become more of a color and less of a substance. Like it's not linked to what it used to be, right? So I feel like I don't think we'll ever sell oils Game Masters. I had a friend, Secret Weapon was looking into it for a while, and it's a pain in the butt. Like getting the tubes actually is kind of a pain in the butt. To do small batch is really prohibitively expensive. And when I was in charge of the paint department, I didn't want to mess with solvents. Like that was my big thing, Game Masters, is that I was like, okay, I don't even want to get into this because I have toxicity concerns. Like I don't want to even do it. And it would have been we would have had a completely different like paint chemistry setup for oils. Like it needed a whole other paint shop to deal with oils, with pumping oils, with working with oils, with mixing oils. It would have had to be separate. And so I don't think so. That and if you do want oils now, if you want specifically for miniatures oils, there are a couple companies that do them now. I've talked about this a bit before. I haven't in a while, and I'm not in charge of the paint department anymore. But the general rule that I always laid down was, if you can do it either significantly better, significantly cheaper, or with better distribution, so 2 out of 3, then Reaper should do it. But with oils, it would have been a great amount of expense, which would have meant that we would have not been able to make it cheaper. We didn't have any better distribution really than Scale Color does, because they use the same distribution that we do, and they're available all over the place. Plus the internet is kind of the great distribution equalizer these days. And then could we do it better? Probably not. It would have been a huge learning curve for me, and chances are that existing art companies are always going to be a little bit better at that. And Scale Color artists, I think Scale Color outsources their stuff. So that art company that they have making their oil paints is going to be better at it than me, who's just coming right off the bat. So Well, you are pretty crazy, Greek. That's cool though, but you know, but it takes a medievalist to do that, right? Like, it's cool that there's still people doing it, but is your average artist who walks into an art store to buy a tube of ultramarine blue actually going to have that? No. Can you buy a little sample of it? Probably. Like, if there are medievalists doing it, you probably can buy an actual sample of real ultramarine, but boy, is it going to set you back. You better save it for something really special. Big chimpo. But there's already a non-mummy brown, and I love it so much. It's my new favorite color. Non-mummy is my new favorite color. Chimera did it. But yes, if you want your mummy bit paint, what you really need is you need Royal Brown from Chimera Colors, which is in their second set. I was like, Royal Brown, what's that? And then I squeezed it out. I'm like, oh my God, it's Mummy Brown. Yeah, exactly, Richard, exactly. So yes, there are many reasons that some pigments, many good reasons that some pigments lead white don't exist anymore. Either cost prohibitive or toxicity usually is what drives them out of the market. But yeah, essentially everything is converging. In the end, we'll all have the same stuff. Unless, like, the exception is that there are some pigments that aren't really useful in industrial applications because, like, artists, unlike people painting houses, artists do appreciate transparency and with the effects that they can get with it. So there are some pigments that are super transparent that are just going to stay, like, out of the... like, there's synthetic ultramarines now, right? You're not going to get the lapis lazuli, but there is a synthetic ultramarine that was created. And I actually did a PDF on this for my Patreon not long ago about blues and transparency and why they're difficult to work with. And ultramarine is one of the ones, the synthetic ultramarine from the Chimera Colors set is one of the examples I used. So sometimes there are colors that have that transparency, and we as artists like that because we can do cool blending stuff with it, right? But industrial paint companies will never adopt that or try to iterate on it because there's just it's not useful to them. They can take other blues and make a higher coverage blue that's roughly the same color, right? Because most of them, they want a color that's going to cover. So a lot of the technology from industrial companies, that's why that gets pulled into the art world because we also want high coverage, especially hobby paints. So that's how they trade back and forth. Yes, let's not ingest it. Although I think I read that, like, maybe, is it cyanide that you can ingest tiny amounts of and make yourself, like, it has, like, specific, like, physical things that it does to you, but it won't kill you right away. So I'm going to do a highlight up there. I'm going to get the bottom plate of this. I don't remember. I've learned about some poisons from mystery novels, and you hope they get the science right, but you're never quite sure. I don't look these things up because I don't need that on my Google searches. I don't need... I'm sure mystery writers... Actually, Dorothy Sayers did a whole book on this, a mystery writer suspected of murder, and that was the one, I think, that talked about cyanide. It's called Strong Poison, and Dorothy Sayers is an excellent writer. If you like Agatha Christie era... mysteries, pick up Strong Poison or Murder Must Advertise. There's the Lord Peter Wimsey series, and they're brilliant. But yeah, the Strong Poison one specifically brings up that the writer had been researching exactly that poison, and that made her more likely to be guilty. So yeah, I don't need that on my Google searches. Not that I'm expecting to poison anybody in the near future, but you know, you just don't want to even go there. Oh, have fun, Agent Marble. All right, so I'm going to hit... One thing that you can do with this really bright metallic is you can hit these little rivets right up at the neck. You can see that those actually come out now. I did blorf that one. You can see it's a little bit bigger, but that's fine. I can take my shading and I can correct it. Toddlers are why you're tired. Oh, time check, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I'm having fun today, so I'm just like... There, we corrected that a little bit. Just needs a little bit of shading. So you can see these little touches, right? You can see that I've got that dot there and a little bit down there. I've got this stripe down here. And all of that is going to, and I did a pretty hefty highlight coming down here where this is sticking out. And all of that is going to make it more dramatic, and it's going to make it easier to keep that shine showing up as you turn the model, and to focus the eye on the areas that should be the most shiny. No 24-hour stream. No, please, no. I do need to get writing done today. I'm working on chapter 10? Chapter 9? Chapter 10? No, chapter 8. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 for the editing, doing my new book. Should be okay. Some of my chapters are definitely rougher than others. Because I wrote the first version of this book so long ago. So there's still some, what I call them artifacts. Kind of like old writing, the remnants of old writing that I did that I could do better now, right? So I have to change stuff. That's why this is a rewrite and not just an edit of this book. It's because there's quite a bit of rewriting being done. There we go. Got those rivets. We just need bathroom and stretch breaks. We could, and I'd want to, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would need serious breaks because I'd be exhausted after. It's like you have to work up to it. That's what we were talking about about writing a while ago, where writers who sit and write for 8 hours a day are pretty rare. And usually they do take a pretty big break in the middle. You're more likely to run into a writer that just tries to do 2,000 words a day, like Stephen King. And sometimes he gets it done in 2 hours, and sometimes he gets it done in 8. But just because it takes so much practice, like when I was painting professionally, when I was doing eBay freelancing, I would try to put in an 8-hour day, and I would have to take a big lunch. I'd have to take breaks, break in the morning, break in the afternoon. And I had to work myself up to painting that much. Like it takes practice to work yourself up to doing that much creative work in a day. It really exhausts you. Like you're just pooped when you're done. You're just exhausted. You just like want to stare at a television or read a book mindlessly. Oh, Quindy, you're funny. Alrighty, folks. I think we're gonna call it. Thank you for tuning in. We got our shadows. We got some pretty highlights. We're getting some nice shiny metallics on this model. So we will continue. I still haven't like totally decided what colors I want to make her. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that comes out. And it'll be gripping, Vic Danger. It'll be gripping. All right, so we'll resume our highlighting next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Yeah, today was fun. Lots of talk. Let me put Mr. Grumpy back here. There we are. Yes, tomorrow we will be back on our wizarding pair. Oh no, don't fall over. We're back on green stuff tomorrow. We're back on working on Spell Effect Dude and doing the big flagstones instead of the little cobblestones on Goth Lady. So that is where we will be at tomorrow. Tomorrow I think I'm going to take Bob and Julie's suggestion, and I'm going to do some super glue around the edge of our little thing here, and that'll give a surface for our green stuff or our goop stuff, as I'm going to use the water effects, to cling to, so that it's not just falling off of our lightning bolt. So that's what I'm looking at for tomorrow, and I'm going to bend this a little bit. There we go, perfect. So now that's what I wanted to do. So we're going to essentially extend this spell effect along the length of this wire. Yep. Alrighty, so yeah, green stuff tomorrow and other stuff. Green stuff and other stuff. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and I've got to go take a poofy little dog for a walk. Hopefully sans possums. Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Bye, Quindy. Bye, everybody.